Hey there, good morning. It is Tuesday. Yeah, it's Tuesday, March 4th. My name is Rob. Around here, I'm known as that developer dad. And we're building applications. This week, we're not building applications in .NET and C# like I typically have been because I want to bone up on my JavaScript and front-end work, just because it's an aspect that I've let languish for a good number of years, and I really can't get away without it anymore. So me and my buddy Claude, who lives in the right-hand panel of my development environment, have been building a thing. Started this yesterday with just an idea and a couple of napkin sketch style screen mocks in PowerPoint. And between the two of us and about, I don't know, 6 or 7 hours of development collaboration, we've gotten the screen for my Bitmap Editor all laid out. And the only interactivity that is actually functioning right now is the scale factor bar up here. Right now, the Bitmap Editor will create a 64 by 64 pixel bitmap by the time we're done. And this is the preview up here. And here is the working area. I don't have any mouse events connected to it yet or anything like that. We've got our color pickers down here. Nothing happens when I click them. But I do have the scale factor connected and working. And we can go up to 8x, which means for every pixel in this image, it's represented by 8 pixels in the working image. So I'm just going to pull this back to 5. And Claude and I actually discussed some of the eventing model and so on towards the end of the day yesterday. And I noticed that I've got a border that's snuck in around the preview area here that I want to get rid of. So let's just super quickly, I believe style CSS, preview canvas before, okay, preview canvas position relative, and let's say border none, save that, and we can see that that ghost border that I had around here is gone. Groovy. So let's dive in to what Claude and I were talking about. I'm probably not going to need my CSS files open for any of this stuff, or the built-in palettes or built-in templates. I've got a couple of those queued up. And I will say good morning to Claude. Good morning, Claude. Claude is very thoughtful. Claude takes a minute to reply to just about everything I say. And yes, I'm doing that thing that developers do that people always tell us we shouldn't, and that's to anthropomorphize the software that we work with. But I find applying that human element to it sometimes makes it easier to reason about and easier to think through and solve problems with. And Claude says, good morning, shall we begin implementing the event system in the Pixel Editor class? Here's how we can add basic event infrastructure. And he's got a suggestion here where we just connect an array of event handlers, and it's really just a dictionary, an empty dictionary that will accept pointers to functions that are elsewhere. And then the way he's got this working is we've got an on function where we pass the event name and the handler. This connects the event handler. and then emit, which accepts an event name and the data that is associated with the event that just occurred. And what it does is it looks into this dictionary up here, gets the function pointers that are stored in the array, and then just calls all of those handlers in sequence, basically, until it's done. I don't believe we can do this in a parallel fashion because I don't believe JavaScript running in the browser is multi-threaded by nature. In fact, that's a good question for, I'll just use Bing. So let's open up Edge. Excuse me. It's allergy season. Fun stuff. Come on, Edge. Wakey, wakey. Here we go. Let's get rid of that. Come on. Wake up. I don't want to see news. There's too much ugly in the news. In JavaScript, running in the browser, do we have the ability to run functions in parallel, or is that environment exclusively single-threaded by nature? By this question, I mean we're using vanilla JavaScript without any additional packages to simulate parallel processing. Yep, JavaScript running in the browser is indeed single-threaded by nature, can only execute one piece of code at a time on the main thread. Achieve parallelism-like behavior using web workers. Let's run scripts in background threads separate from the main execution thread. Create a web worker. Instantiate and communicate with the web worker. I don't want to get into any of that with this project. That's just, it's too much additional complexity for not enough benefit. If I needed true parallelism for some of these event handlers and it made sense, I'd boost them up to the server where I could actually do pure, true parallel processing. But for this use case, meh, I don't think we need it. All right. And Claude has shown me a whole bunch of code that lets me register and then later evoke or invoke these event handlers. That looks like a solid event handling mechanic. I think, however, we need to plan, we need to identify the events we want to handle, where those events will be initiated, and which components need to respond to those events before we start coding the event sync mechanism. I also think we should probably implement this concept as a discrete JavaScript class, inject it into the PaletteEditor class, and let the PaletteEditor act as the host, and then pass the instance from Pixel Editor into the other components that will be publishing and subscribing to these events. But first, identification and planning. Let's see what Claude has to say to that. And you tell me that your tech bro buddy over in marketing that thinks he can spin up products using an AI is going to have conversations like this that ensure the future extensibility and maintainability and performance of whatever he's dreamed up. And I've got a bridge to sell you. Let's identify our core events and their flow through the system. Color selection events. Raised by, hey, C Films, what's up, buddy? Raised by Color Picker. Okay. Drawing events, palette events, color changed, palette loaded. Canvas view events, scale changed. And here's our proposed event bus class structure. Hey, I'm doing okay. I'm doing something a little different the first half of this week, where I needed a pixel editor or a pixel art editor, so I'm building one with my buddy Claude. And yesterday we did most of the layout. Today we're going to get things connected. All right, export class event bus, subscribe, publish. Yeah. Let's go ahead and create that event bus. Now, since you're so eager to create code, then we'll get back to the boring old planning and design discussion. My AI chatbot rankings. I don't even know what an AI chatbot ranking is. I haven't built an AI chatbot. I use them, but I haven't built one. All right. Dedicated event bus class in the lib folder. I feel like this event bus belongs maybe in the more globally available location. Let me inspect the folder structure we have. Just a sec. So off source components shared. Yes. Going back to /source components shared. Oh, yeah, I haven't I've got preferences of different chatbots for different use cases. See films for code generation, architecture discussion, and stuff like that. I really like having Claude 3.5 Sonnet that's in Copilot for just general. Hey, how does this work? Or I need clarification on this tech or whatever. I'll use whatever ChatGPT sits behind Bing AI. I think it's GPT-3.5 or 4. Going back to the folder structure in our workspace, I think source components shared is a better location for this construct. I don't tend to rank things numerically. All right, Claude. Wakey, wakey. Shared utilities, since could easily be useful across different features. Okay. So I'm going to take this, and it's going to stuff it in the lib folder, but I'm going to move it in a second. So we'll save this, come out to my thing, close the components up briefly, and event bus, you're coming up into shared. Yes, move it. All right, now we'll go back to the chat and PaletteEditor. Come back out to index.js. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to change index.js to where's the rename? And this is going to break a bunch of stuff. So you know what? I'm not. I'm going to leave that as is. So let's add that change here. And it's going to temporarily break things for just a moment because it thinks it's going to be looking in /lib, but it actually needs to do some folder traversal here. Here it comes. Pardon me. Accept. And when I save this, it's going to make my entire browser window go white. Actually, no, it's going to make it go gray with a big ugly Vite error, but that's okay. I just need to check the folder traversal. So we are in features/PaletteEditor. So I need to go back to, and then, so // At this cursor position, we're basically in the SRC folder, /components /shared. Save. And we're back. We got it. Groovy. Okay, we'll come back to the chat. So, initialize editor, blah, blah, blah. This dot events equals new event bus. We've got it. Groovy. Existing layout creation, palette VM, image editor VM. All right. For efficient event handling, we're you doing? Okay, let's review this code. So this .subscribers.get event name .add callback. So this is how we subscribe. Okay. And this is how we publish. Error and event handler for such and such. So when we publish an event name and some data. And then we basically, for each event we're trying to handle, we wrap that in a try catch. And if it fails, out we go. Or if it fails, we just write a console error. If it passes, we're good. Clear all subscriptions. This .subscribers.clear. Okie dokie. We've got our event bus. All right. Unsubscribe function for cleanup includes error handling and publish. Clear method for reset. Simple subscribe publish interface. Okay. And we've got that moved. That's all good. Okay. The main events I want to deal with are when a color is edited in the palette editor. A bunch of things need to happen. When a color is selected in the color picker, when different mouse events occur on the working canvas, later, when it's implemented, we'll need, no, we won't. To update some models and repaint the preview and working canvas. When the scale factor is changed, we need to resize and repaint the working canvas. When a color is edited in the palette editor, a bunch of things need to happen, but this is a more complex interaction than we think it might be. Other events likely only affect properties within a view model's own scope that are then referenced by the components that care about those property values, and so shouldn't need to participate in this wider eventing behavior. Let's see what Claude has to say about that. Now, color picker needs to refresh its swatches. Both canvases need repainting with new color values. Status bar should show color change info. Not really. Repaint both canvases. Effects. Under the scale factor changes, I see the interface keyword. Is that even a thing in JavaScript? Okay, that's better. All right. I think the first place we should focus our efforts is in the Palette Editor. I don't want to raise events when the individual values in a swatch editor are changed. I don't want to raise events out of a swatch editor in that editor are changed, but rather handle those changes within the context of the individual swatch editor, and then raise the new index and color value out from the palette editor when the swatch editor loses focus. I don't know if I have any competitor websites to the DM's familiar yet. Anybody I've shown it to and talked to about it has been like, I have not heard of anything like that. And by golly, that'll be handy. And I'll be getting back into DM's familiar focused content later this week. But I wanted to spend the first couple of days, like Monday and Tuesday, talking about how I work with AI to make software happen. Because I feel like there's a lot of educational value for other people in seeing this process go through. And there's potentially value for me in terms of being able to show potential employers, hey, there's a lot more to working with AI than just telling it what you want. You got to have somebody who knows what they're doing at the wheel telling the AI what to do. All right, keeps the event granularity at the right level. Let's create an event definition for when a color is finalized in the palette editor. I like it. So where does it want to put this? Editor events.js. Yes, that'll work. Boop. And let's create it. And that can go into that lib folder that it's talking about because it is specific to the pixel editor feature that I am building out here. So cool. Now we modify the palette editor view model to handle it. So import editor events from lib editor events.js. Boogity boogity boo, palette editor, so on and so forth. Handle color change. This.event bus.publish, boogity boo, yada yada. All right, let's apply that change in here. Let it do the thing. And it's still thinking. Working. And accept. Now let's save all. Let's get the swatch editor to a place where it's able to tell its parent palette editor that it has experienced a change. Now, I think we're going to have a problem down in, here's update color. When I started off using AI chatbots, I was primarily using them as research assistant, a brainstorming tool like UC Films, and a super powered rubber duck, basically. Where is my old rubber duck? The robots took his job. Where is he? Oh my gosh, he's missing. That's a drag. I used to have a rubber duck with giraffe antlers and giraffe spots sitting on my desk, and I can't put my hands on him right now. But I'll try to remember to look for him between now and next stream. But when I would get stuck on a programming issue, I would basically just talk through what I was dealing with to the rubber duck. And in so doing, I would explain the problem to myself, and my brain would go, oh, hey, stupid, it's like this. So, yeah. I don't see the changes in here. Selects the swatch in the palette. True if selection was changed. That doesn't really do anything for me yet. Get selected swatch. I suppose. It's not event bus. I don't see the event bus being brought in anywhere here. Event bus equals event bus. Oh, it's being passed. Before we do that, I don't see an import for the event bus in the palette editor view model. Don't we need that? Thanks for the clarification, 9 of 12. Okay, we don't need to import the event bus class because we're receiving an instance of it through the constructor params. The import for editor events is correct. Okay, cool. Just making sure. Let's get the swatch editor sculpted into shape for raising these events. Now, handle swatch blur. Adding change notification to SwatchEditor. And it's probably still responding. Yeah, I'll wait until it's done answering here, and then I'll go up. Oh, as far as doing that, it's actually surprisingly easy. If I remember right, you work primarily in PHP. Now, if you have an API key to an AI model provider, for instance, I'm using Azure OpenAI services. Yeah, there is now, and it's been built by a team of lots of people who are backed by money, and I'm sure it's going to be popular but not very good. We'll see. I'll get there. Oh goodness, what am I doing? I'm moving stuff all over the damn place. I grabbed the wrong window. All right. So let's get this in here. Boop. I'll let these edits go in. Accept. Let's save this. And I want to review what it did because it just blew up my whole thing. And that means I've probably got console errors. So where is my web inspector? It's here. Here's my console errors. Update RGBA from hex is not a function. We'll get there. And then I'll need to review these code changes in a moment. Okay, now we'll save this. I'm still getting that. Swatch editor view model, line 28. Here's the swatch editor view. Here's the swatch editor view model, line 28. Update from hex. This dot update RGBA from hex. Update from components, get changes. Update components from hex. Update hex from components. Okay. After applying these changes, I'm getting an error that update RGBA from hex is not a function, and it is not. I do see an update components from hex in there. it's got a couple problems too. Hex, okay, get changes. Update components from hex, boogity boo, blah, blah, blah. Excuse me. Okay, let's fix the color handling methods in SwatchEditor view mode, or view model rather. Update from hex. Hex color equals new color. Update components from hex. This dot is dirty equals true. Return true. Update components from hex. Blah 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 blah. Okay, you sir can be applied. And accept. Save. Okay, our viewer is back. Fantastic. Now, I don't like this blue. It's way, way, way too icky. Now, before I start editing things, there's another thing that I spotted in here. Update components from hex. All right. Now, in the update components from hex method, I see that it's removing the first character from the hex color value under the assumption that the values loaded into those text boxes will always be prefixed with a number sign character. We should add some defensive code around that so that we don't accidentally truncate the hexadecimal color value when that character is not present, or just add that character to the input's value if it is missing. There we go. All right, I like that code. It's a little goofy, but it's fine. You can do it. Accept. Save. Okay, now let's try changing. I don't like this cyan here. Let's say 128. All right. And we got an error. Component to hex is not a function. That's okay. Update hex from components. So what I got to do is I got to grab this. I'm going to put this in my paste buffer. Pop all the way up here. I'm going to look, and what are we looking for here? Component to hex. So I'm going to say edit find, and I'm going to look for component to hex. Whoops, I got to go up. This one. Update hex from components. Good. Not sure I care for what's going on here, but we'll see. I might have just screwed something up colossally. $128, okay. All right. So I can edit these color component values to my heart's content, but nothing's happening inside the swatch editor. That's fine. Okay. Looks like nothing is happening when I change the component colors in a swatch editor. Let's get the swatch editor behaving correctly before we go any further down this path. Here are my expectations. When type text swatch hex. The value in the input bound to underscore hex color changes. We need to repaint the preview and recalculate the color component values when the value in any of the color component inputs change. We need to recompute the hex color and repaint the color preview when the swatch editor loses focus. We need to raise the event that the swatch at index IDX has changed its color to whatever that new value might have become. And I'm going to stop the processing. Let's focus on getting the internal events handled on the swatch editor view first, and then we'll deal with raising the color palette change, palette color change event to the rest of the application after this part is working. I don't use Stack Overflow hardly at all anymore, and it's been almost a year and a half since I got access to AI tools for development. It really hasn't it really hasn't done as well as just going to a RAG capable assistant like Bing AI, because Bing AI will reference Stack Overflow for me, and it'll search through there and collect the results and synthesize the answer to whatever question I'm using. But I've found it just much more efficient to literally use Bing AI, which has been rebranded to Copilot, but it's Bing AI. I don't want to dead name it. I got to call it Copilot. But yeah, I'll use Stack Overflow by, I suppose, by inference. Pardon the pun. But yeah, going directly there, it's exceptionally rare that I would go directly to Stack Overflow and actually search through there manually anymore. And I don't think I've ever posted on Stack Overflow. I've noticed just by using it, like as a consumer, that it can be kind of toxic. Okay, so we've attached the event handlers. I don't love that method name. Okay, color inputs, update hex input. Color preview div. Okay. All right. Now, I'm about to bounce the stream. But let's see here. Okay. Not yet. Oh, dang, blast it. Stop. not yet. I'm not in love with the naming on attach event handlers. Since the events we're dealing with are scoped to the local object and its view model, I'd like something more suggestive of that narrow scope in this method name. And we'll use the naming pattern we come up with in the other components we work on today. Now, I am going to go into be right back mode just for a minute. And then once I get the swatch editor behaving itself, at least internally, I'm going to end the stream and we'll come back in the afternoon and carry forward from wherever I get to in between streams, because I'm going to keep working on this because I do need to get back to focusing on the DM's familiar, but I also want to get this little JavaScript component thing finished because I have need of it for other things that I'm rolling around in my head that I thought were in the future when we're all driving flying cars and Captain Picard is going to show up at our house and take us off on a galactic adventure, like the future. I might consider a more advanced feature in the DM's familiar, but I need to get a user base. 9 and 12 gave me a not quite stern talking to about getting distracted from primary priorities and objectives and so on last night. And she's right. But I also wanted to do this demo of how I work with AI. So I'll be right back. And then when I come back, we're going to get the swatch editor behaving itself. And then we're going to break. And then when I come back in the afternoon, we're going to pick up from wherever I get to. So just a minute. Hey, I'm back. Sorry about that. Okay, so I was talking about how I didn't like the name of this attach event handlers because it doesn't imply the scoping of the events we're dealing with, and it suggests bind local events, and I really, really like that. Perfect. Let's apply it. And I keep saying this as I go through this series. And the more I experience it, the more I believe it, that the real power in these AI models, especially these AI coding assistants, is when they're being used by somebody who is an experienced maker of software. I see an awful lot of chatter on, in the professional forums that I engage with about how the output from these AI coding models is absolute garbage, and it's unmaintainable, and it's a pain to work with, and grump, grump, grump. And yes, unattended, garbage. With careful guidance from somebody who builds software and has the years of experience and knows the trouble spots and all of the pain owies that we can get into if we're not vigilant, I feel like it's an augmentation of it can be an augmentation of an already accomplished software developer's skill set. I would never dream of doing what I'm doing with pure JavaScript before stumbling into using a coding assistant like this. Okay, now we're getting some crazy functions and stuff like that. And I think it's because, well, the calculation is going crazy here. So where is my, so we've got an undefined. Let's take a look. Let me change this again. 255. All right. Okay. Local events are now firing and being handled, but they're throwing errors. Where's our bind local events? Here's bind local events. Const hex input, add event listener input, E. This view model update from hex. Swatch hex. For each. Okay, update color preview, update component inputs. And I was actually editing the color inputs for each. Add event listener. Red, green, blue, alpha, update from components, update color preview, update hex input. I feel like update hex input should go swatch hex input value equals view model underscore hex color. Update from components. Go to definition. This dot update hex from components. All right. They're throwing errors. I'm ending up with undefined in my hex color field. Perhaps we're firing the events too soon. Let's get some console logging in place to see what's going on. Swatch editor view. So logging in key methods. Okay. Swatch editor constructor. Yeah, let's just spray all of those in there. Go. And then I can watch the logs. Still applying the edits. Come on, you can go. Go, go, go. This is becoming a very long file. And this is just one component. But imagine how hideous it'd be if I didn't insist that we follow a logical structure and just let it dump everything into a single JavaScript file. That'd be nightmarish. All right, so we've got that. And let's take a look at logs. And we've got, here we go, blah, 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 update components from Hex. And this is during the initialization period. Now, I'm going to bring this over here. And I'm just going to sneak this onto screen here so that it's sort of visible here and so on. And let's play with this ugly cyan here. And let's see here. So the red is 0, 0. That's green. That's blue. That's alpha. Let's knock this green down to 66. Hey, that worked. Let's go to 128 and 128. Groovy. Hey, now we've got a nice teal. Let's make it semi-transparent. We'll take the alpha down to 50%. Ooh. 195. 255. Let's bring up the red a little bit. Yeah. 0. 255. 255. Okay, great. That's working. All right. Okay, so whatever we did when adding those console.log statements fixed whatever the issue was. Let's comment them out. Console.log invocations out. Retest the UI and then remove them. All right. And it's thinking and thinking and thinking. Whoops. All right, apply. Make it so. Engage. Ensign Crusher. Do, 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 do. And it's still applying. It's still going way faster than I would if I were doing it manually. But imagine being in the office scenario, and the boss that's demanded everybody come back to the office because they want to walk around and crack the whip were to walk past and see somebody just staring at the computer while things animate and everything like that. And they're like not a programmer and don't understand how it works or anything like that. And they just see people doing stuff like that, they're going to freak out. I've worked with managers like that recently that are old school authoritarian type, and it was not a pleasant experience. Not a pleasant experience at all. 500. Oh yeah, 255. Okay, it's still working. Let's rip those console commented console.log statements out altogether. Then we need to do a little bit of input validation. Oi, excuse me. Oh gosh. I'm remembering back in the olden days when I would do this stuff manually and everything like that. This screen would represent probably about 2 weeks of manual coding work in, say, something like VB or C Sharp or JavaScript or whatever. It would have represented about 2 weeks worth of coding work. The Canvas stuff, forget it. I would never in a million years have been able to figure this stuff out. Well, no, I would have, but it would have been a slow, painful process. And with this tooling that we now have access to, um, I'm brave enough to try things that I once thought were difficult to the point of not even worth bothering with. And B, I'm knocking them out efficiently because I'm able to use my experience with structuring code and making sure things stay reasonably neat and tidy. I'm never going to claim that my code is perfectly structured or anything like that, because somebody somewhere is always going to be able to find fault in other people's work. That's just the way this stuff happens. Because honestly, a lot of these clean code practices and so on and so forth are a matter of taste more than anything. Some of them absolutely do make sense, but the vast majority of coding standards, in my opinion, come down to the personal taste of whoever wrote them. Okay, cool. We're still working. Added a validate hex color method. Can I type? So on the input validation that I referenced, I spotted, but I didn't say anything, that I can type way out of bound numbers into these component things. 255. Okay. Validate hex color method. Let me come in here and go QQ, SS, ZZ, YY. That's not a valid hex color at all. Ensure valid hex format. Okay. All right. Here are the things I've just been able to do. Adding, I can change any of the color component fields to values outside of the 0 to 255 range, even though the code is silently negative 425. Yup. Even though the code is silently leaving the color unchanged when I do that. I changed the hex color field input value to utter nonsense, and it reverted to pure opaque black. This is better than throwing errors, but in the hex color field, let's ignore any keystrokes that are outside of 0, 0 to 9, and or AA, FF. Will not care about case. In the numeric color component fields, let's forbid any character that is not a number, including the minus sign, because our range is 0 to 255. And if a value is entered that's out of range, we'll set it to 255 when that input loses focus. And so this is what I'm going to be monkeying with between now and this afternoon's session. I might get these changes connected over to the color picker. So when I'm working in a particular editor and I've got the color dialed in the way I want it, and then I click outside or I tab out of that editor, I might get the update raising to update whatever was in slot 8. You can see over here it's still that ugly cyan, and up here I've got like a hunter green specified at this point. So I might go so far as to connect changes here over to the color picker. And if I get that knocked out and my validation stuff in here worked out, and maybe some UI affordances as well, I'm not sure. I might get the color selection stuff happening in here. And we'll see how far I get. And when I come back, we'll just continue adding event handling and registering it and getting these different components within the pixel editor feature talking to each other. And you can see it's a little bit of manual coding on my part, a whole lot of specifying and conversing with the LLM, a lot of back and forth, and I actually quite like this workflow because in a day and a couple hours worth of work, I'm starting to get some pretty impressive results. I like it. So until this afternoon session, I'll aim to start that as close to 1 o'clock as I possibly can. I will fall down rabbit holes and get distracted. Take care of yourselves and happy coding. I'll see y'all again.